So for whatever reason, I feel drawn to talking about gratitude. I don't even know what I'm going to say, but that's sometimes the best talks. I was hearing the birds, the windows open, you may have noticed. I don't know if how much that carries through in the mic. Probably not too much until I put on the original sound that lets the bell ring. But maybe in your own home, you have your windows open and you can feel the night air coming in. And there's all these birds singing, for which I'm very grateful. And I know they don't exactly sing for me. They have their own reasons for singing, most of them having to do with mating and territory and things like that. They have their own kind of reason for singing. And yet, in some ways, they do sing for me. I can't quite explain that. It's part of the mystery. It's like, I know that the planet isn't green because I like it. It's green because that's the color of chlorophyll, and that's the magical molecule that makes this whole world happen. It's what oxygenated our atmosphere, made the oceans bloom in a sense, started life. So the plants, they weren't the first life, but they certainly moved it on to a whole nother level. So there's something in my heart that responds to green, and probably because I am a being of this earth. I am connected to this greenness that is life. And if I lived in a desert, I would notice the green where the spring may lie, where there's water. And so there's something deep in us that is connected, even through our love of green or love of birdsong. And I don't know what it is about a spring day and the sun shining. I was just noticing it's like on a spring day when the sun's shining, it's hard not to feel positive. It's like the sunshine and the color and the new life team up to offer hope to a human being, probably to other animals too, as well as the plants. There's kind of this new life, this hope that's offered. It's kind of irresistible, unless, of course, your mind is sunk in some other thing, which is I know what it's like to go through a spring and be unhappy. And sometimes these things don't touch you. But nonetheless, at some point, perhaps they touch you. And it's lovely. It's lovely. I am grateful for all of you that you keep coming. Something wonderful happens here. It's not all about me or what I teach. You are the inspiration for what comes out of me, believe it or not. I don't wander around all day thinking about the Dharma. But in the presence of students, it's what I know comes forth. And so I get to hear it myself sometimes. Go, oh, I knew that? Really? Okay, yeah, I guess I did. And sometimes I hear it in your mouth. Sometimes, I witness in your sharing, the care with which you are approaching some aspect of your life, the care and attention Of course, attention is a form of love. It's one of the most sincere forms of love, is to actually pay attention. And so when you come, when you give your presence, it lends an energy, it lends an invitation for something to happen. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that sort of common field of consciousness we create with each other each Tuesday evening. I'm grateful for, this may sound a little funny, but I'm grateful for language. um, it's an amazing thing. In some ways, I feel like my job is to F the ineffable, to give words to things that are very hard to put into words at times, things that are subtle, things that concepts don't quite seem to wrap around very well, which is why sometimes conceptually I might seem like I'm saying both two or three things at once that aren't necessarily compatible. But words, nonetheless, are the way that we communicate as human beings. One of the primary ways. We, of course, communicate with our presence, with our bodies. In this Zoom kind of room, that's a little bit attenuated, kind of ways we could communicate if we were together in person. But through the miracle of words, something of what's in my heart goes into yours and is understood. And that's amazing. That's truly amazing. I think it's happening with the birds. Something of their heart comes into mine. I might not get it right, They might be singing the most beautiful song in the world, and it's really saying, stay away, this is mine, this is mine. But nonetheless, there's some quality of their life that's in it, that speaks to mine. I might not always have right what my dog is trying to communicate, but we're definitely in a relationship, definitely in a profound relationship with each other. And what happens to me matters to her. What happens to her matters to me. And I can feel that really strongly. It touches me. It's, not just that I feed her. It's not just that I take her for walks. There's a sense that she's attuned. She has this quality of being attuned to her. I sometimes feel like I'm not as attuned to her as she is to me. Maybe feel a little guilty about that at times. But it's kind of the way it is when you're with human beings. Nonetheless, I'm grateful for her attunement. And I'm grateful for the attunement that I've experienced in my life from other people. The way people have actually empathized when I've needed empathy. The way they've just seen me and what I do and appreciate it. I really am grateful for those moments when I feel appreciated and reflected back in appropriate ways. I'm even grateful sometimes for the feedback that isn't so easy to take from people when it's done with a good heart. We are social animals and we need each other. We need each other for company. We need each other for witnessing and attunement. We need each other for support and guidance. And we need each other just because this being human is so difficult, so complex, and yet so amazing, so truly amazing that this even exists. I'm truly in awe of the kind of inventions that humans have come up with. I'm not sure I'm grateful for all of them, at least not wholeheartedly grateful for every invention that human beings have sort of put into my world. But I'm nonetheless kind of in awe of, for instance, this Zoom room where we can all show up without leaving our homes. It's really like, who knew? This was science fiction when I was young. This was nothing anybody knew would happen. And here it is. And it's very likely in another 30, 40, 50 years, there will be things common to our lives which we have no idea of now. No idea. So I am, in awe of that and humbled by it. And mostly grateful. I'm grateful for I'll say the genius of the Buddha, Siddhartha, this human being who walked the earth about 2,500 years ago. And while I'm not sure that his actual words are what the suttas record, I suspect there's a more complex process than that. There's enough of his words in there. There's enough of his insights that it has been carried on for 2,500 years, and continues to be relevant, continues to touch us, continues to illuminate our lives and free us from suffering. So that's truly amazing, and I'm very grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the lineage of people who have studied the Dharma and passed it on, that I could be so fortunate as to come across it at a certain point in my life. That didn't have to happen. So many things didn't have to happen in my life that did, that were extremely fortunate. And that was certainly one of them. And that's somewhat of a mystery. Somewhat of a mystery, these seminal moments that where some seed is planted that grows and eventually bears fruit, becomes a huge tree. I'm grateful for that. And as I age, and indeed I am, indeed I am, my gratitude grows for the way that seeds have sprouted in my life and produced their fruit. From literally my children, who are now very competent adults, to this Dharma community, which was started in 1997, believe it or not. I've been teaching through Bodhisara since then, though didn't become a nonprofit for a couple of years. Took a while to get aboard and all of that, but it's really just started in 1997 in a class in Amherst. And I don't, at First Churches, and it continues. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the support, and I'm grateful for any fruit in your lives from it. I really am. It gives me joy. I really should contemplate that more often. I have to say I don't contemplate the fruits that have come from all of this, but I know that they're there. Someone recently, I don't even remember where I was, said that they thought that gratitude was the key to life, key to happiness. I tend to agree. I tend to agree that there's something very liberating about it. It liberates the heart from grasping to just receive what's here. It liberates the mind from the anxious doer that's always looking for what's wrong, what needs to happen, what should change for a moment. And that becomes quiet. And we just receive. And we receive that we live in a network, in a complex web of giving and taking. And we have since we were in utero, really, giving and taking from our mother's body, giving and taking with every breath, every bit of food that anyone gave us. You know, I try to grow a lot of my own food, but believe me, I'm not the source of my living that way. A lot of other human beings contribute to it. This complex kind of economic world where we give and take. Sometimes it's not so fair, but nonetheless, it's amazing in itself that it works as well as it does. Where each person offers what they feel like they can do and sustain themselves that way, receive what they need, hopefully. Again, it's a complex process and not perfect by any means. I think that, gratitude feeds the heart. I grew up on a farm, I'm oriented to food. I'm oriented to growing things. From my background, I somehow got that from my father. I grow a garden. I like to grow things. And I was going somewhere with that, and suddenly I'm like a little bit adrift. But where was I going with that? About the growing. Goodness, it was something about gratitude, but I think I lost the thread a little bit. Let's see if I can pull it back in. I'm not sure I can pull back the original thought, but it does have to do with what I'm talking about in terms of connectedness, that none of us really live alone. None of us could survive alone, not for very long. Even if we are alone, we carry with us all of our experiences we've had with other people and the very language we've learned from them. All the skills, all the understanding, is we carry that with us as our interconnectedness. And as I grow older, I feel more and more connected actually with my parents who are no longer living. I don't know quite why that would be the case, but I do. And kind of remembering them at my age, when they were kind of in their late 60s and their health was pretty good. And yet there's something about this age where you can kind of smell the wind coming off the distant horizon where you won't be here. And it seasons it a bit. It seasons the flavor of things. And And there's a feeling to that which I associate with my parents. Um, Something mellowed in them as they aged. And, they knew they were going to say goodbye to this world at some point. And so that's become more clear with each passing year to me. At some point, I will say goodbye to this world. And at least to the Mark Hart that I've been. And it also fills me with gratitude. So I hope you've enjoyed this little spontaneous meditation on gratitude. It just was where I was drawn to in terms of talking about looking deeply. And be well.